Deep in the forest, there was a dragon and her egg living in a cave, and one day, the dragon decided to go out and hunt for some food for her kid to eat when it hatches. But she forgot that these were ranked lobbies, and the second she flew out into the open, she got sniped by a group of humans who had been hunting in the area. This leaves her base and egg completely undefended. And before long, a pregnant magic cat happened to come across the abandoned base and decided to claim the territory for herself. She then gave birth to her children right there in the cave, but as she was caring for her children, the abandoned egg also happened to hatch at the same time, and since the first thing it saw was the cat, it assumed she must be his mother. The cat obviously knew that this ugly-ass baby couldn't be one of her kids, but she felt bad for him, and she thought it would be quite interesting to try raising a kid of a different species. So she decided to take the baby dragon in and told her kittens that, from now on, they had a new little brother. Later on, the mother cat decided to take her kids out with her while she went hunting so they could learn how it was done, and while prowling around in the grass, they came across a group of unsuspecting mice in the middle of eating some berries, so the mother cat got into position and pounced on the mice, taking out a whole bunch of them at once. After the hunting lesson, she also decided to teach her kittens how to use their lightning magic with their tails, and the kittens all grasped the lesson fairly quickly. But when the dragon tried to do the same with his own tail, nothing happened. He looked really upset about not being able to use magic, so the mother cat and the others all decided to work together to figure out what kind of magic the dragon could use. After some trial and error, they discovered that the dragon was able to use his wings to fly, and he could breathe fire from his mouth, although he would still need to practice it a bit more before he got the hang of it. Just then, the cat sensed something approaching, so she told all her kids to stay quiet and hide in the bushes. A moment later, a group of humans walked by, and thankfully, they didn't notice them. But the kids were all a bit confused as to why their mom was so scared of those people, because they'd never seen animals like them before. Their mother explained to them that those things were humans, and they were one of the most terrifying species around because some were very kind, while others achieved new depths of cruelty with each passing day, and there was no way to know how they would react if they spotted them since cat sis like them were seen as a valuable resource by humans. The kids all realized that humans really were dangerous, so they started trying to memorize the scent of humans so they could avoid them at all costs in the future. And seeing how serious her kids were, the mother cat was sure they would be able to handle themselves when the day finally came for them to go out on their own and explore the world. Everything had been going well for the cat family, but a few days later, while they were out on a hunt, a magic circle suddenly appeared beneath the mother's feet. The kids were all confused and asked her what was going on in a panic because she was starting to disappear. But the mother realized there was no stopping this because it was a summoning circle from one of the humans. Whenever someone tried to summon a familiar for themselves, the spell yoinked a random animal out in the wild, and it just so happened that the mother cat was chosen this time. So before she got teleported away, she gave her kids one final lesson. She had already taught them all they needed to know about hunting, so if they ever got into trouble, she wanted them to look out for each other and work together whenever necessary to survive. After that, the mother got teleported away, and the kids were left on their own to fend for themselves. As time went on, the older cats all left the nest, leaving the dragon as the only one still living in that cave. He had grown accustomed to the ways of survival, but with his siblings gone, he couldn't help but feel lonely because there was no one for him to spend time with. A lot of time passed like this, with him staying there by himself until one day, his older sister returned to the cave because she was pregnant and looking for a safe place to raise her kids. The dragon happily acted as a fun uncle towards his nephews and nieces, teaching them everything his mother had taught him, including the rules of hunting and the fact that they should never go near humans. Before he knew it, those kittens had grown up as well and left the nest to go start families of their own. It was a happy moment for him to see the kids grow up and become able to take care of themselves, but he'd be lying if he said he didn't feel sad about being left all alone yet again. Because a dragon's lifespan is so much longer than a cat's, the dragon realized he would probably outlive all his siblings, and the thought made him a little depressed. But before he knew it, another cat he had never seen before showed up, and as she approached, the dragon realized that she smelled similar to one of his brothers. The cat introduced herself and told the dragon that she was currently pregnant, and she was hoping he would allow her to give birth in his cave since her father once told her that his brother was a cat with wings, and that if she was ever looking for a safe place, she could always come here. And hearing that his brother thought so highly of him brought tears of joy to the dragon's eyes. Over the years, the dragon continued to grow in size and power, having gained access to advanced magic, and now he was capable of talking to the spirits that naturally existed in the forest. One day, while talking to one of the spirits, the dragon casually mentioned that he was a cat with wings, and the spirit had no idea what he was talking about. So it explained to him that he wasn't a cat at all. And that came as a huge shock to the dragon since his mom never got the chance to explain that to him before she was summoned away. He went back to his cave to inform his nieces and nephews that he was not actually a cat like he thought he was, but they did not care in the slightest because they had already guessed as much since the dragon was like 20 times their size already. They asked him if he could just keep teaching them magic because they'd been having a lot of fun with it, and the dragon said he'd be happy to. All was well for some more time after that, but one day, while the dragon was flying home, he suddenly spotted a group of humans with a bunch of cat corpses piled up next to them. And the second he realized that some of those cats were his family members, he became enraged and charged at the humans, burning them to ash in an instant with his flames. He didn't understand why the humans would kill so many cats at once if they were just hunting for food, but the spirits informed him that the humans never intended to eat these cats. They were simply killing them so they could skin their bodies for their fur and sell it later. The dragon was enraged after he learned of this because if the humans had been hunting for food, he could have forgiven this as just part of the circle of life because all living beings need to eat somehow. But killing cats simply for fashion was absolutely unacceptable, so he immediately flew over to the town those hunters came from and stood on top of their gate, announcing that he was the guardian of all the magic cats who lived in the forest, and the hunters who went out that morning to hunt cats had all been burnt to a crisp by him. He also warned that if any of them ever went into the forest to kill cats again, then he would reduce the entire city to ash. The humans were all terrified, and the local knights all raised their lightning staves to launch blasts at the dragon in an attempt to take him down, but despite their best efforts, none of their attacks so much as left a scratch on the dragon, and in fact, the only thing they managed to do was piss the dragon off even more than before. So in retaliation, the dragon proceeded to burn a section of the city, along with all the soldiers who had raised their weapons against him. He was originally planning to leave the city alone after warning them, but the fact that they attacked him just now was making him consider just annihilating them altogether. However, as he was looking down at the city streets, he spotted a little girl crying amidst the flames, and honestly, he didn't give a damn about her because, in his mind, all humans were nothing but scum. But then he noticed the girl's pet cat come out from behind her, and he saw the cat trying to protect the girl, which reminded him of what his mom had told him back then. There may be cruel humans, but there were also kind ones, and the dragon realized that it wouldn't be fair to destroy all the kind humans because of the actions of the cruel humans. He flies into the air and tells the humans that he is giving them one final warning. He tells them that he does not want to see any humans killing cats in the forest unless it is for food or in self-defense. Anything other than that will incur his wrath, and after leaving them with that warning, he returns to the forest. Many years go by without incident after that, and the humans adjust to the new rules to avoid trouble with the dragon. One night in particular, after the prince of the human kingdom had been tucked into bed, he sneaks out of his room in the dead of night because he wants to practice his magic while no one else is around. The prince had been born with naturally weak magic, so if he wants to inherit the throne and live up to his father's expectations, then he needs to work extra hard to prove himself. However, when he tries to cast a fire spell to burn up a leaf, absolutely nothing happens because he really does suck at magic. He keeps trying over and over, and eventually, a cat happens to wander up next to him, and seeing it cheers the prince up a little. So he decides to keep trying, and this time, he actually manages to set the leaf on fire. He is really excited about his progress and thanks the cat for cheering him on. But then he realizes that this is one of the cats from the forest, and during his lessons, he was warned that if a magic cat were to ever wander into the city, no one from the city was allowed to harm or kill it because if they did, then the imperial dragon would return and burn the entire city to the ground. Remembering that makes the prince a lot more cautious. So he asks the cat if it came from the forest, and after the cat confirms it, he asks if it would like him to lead it back, but the cat says it knows how to get back on its own, and it turns around to leave, so the prince assumes it should be fine. However, the next day, the cat ends up returning to the palace to meet the prince and help him practice, and since the cat is so friendly, he and the prince soon become friends and meet every night to train and talk. It doesn't take long for the king to find out about this, and at first, he is extremely concerned because he is worried the dragon might misunderstand and assume they are forcing the cat to stay here and come to burn the city down. But then again, back when the dragon first appeared, it was reasonable enough to give them 2 warnings, so the king is sure it will all work out as long as they explain things properly. Not long after, the dragon flies into the city, and it causes a huge panic in town, because the people assume it must be here to burn them to ash, but the dragon is simply looking for one of his kittens that hasn't returned to the forest for the last few days. A little while later, the cat comes out, and the dragon demands to know why it hasn't come home in so long. So the cat explains that it became friends with a kid who lives here, and he wants to stay and teach the kid magic because he sucks at it. The dragon reminds the cat that he had warned him that humans were dangerous and to stay away from them. But the cat retorts that his friend isn't dangerous. And when the prince actually shows up, the dragon can see for himself that the kid doesn't have a dangerous bone in his body, so he says he's fine with the cat staying to teach him. However, since the kid is the prince of this kingdom, it's only right that he asks for permission from the king before letting one of his cats stay in the kingdom permanently. So the dragon uses transformation magic to turn himself into a smaller cat form, so he won't cause as much of a panic and starts walking towards the castle. Once he enters the main hall, the king greets him as an honored guest, and he obviously has no objections to one of the dragon's cats staying in the kingdom. But he asks if the dragon is really okay with this since he was the one who taught the cats magic, and the magic they use can be considered a secret art. The dragon says it's fine since it's just a bunch of stuff he learned from talking to the spirits anyway, so it's not a secret. But the dragon is the only one capable of speaking to the spirits around here in the first place, so that's the kind of knowledge no one else would be able to acquire. Still, since the dragon has no objections, it is decided that the cat can stay and teach the prince for as long as he wants, and from then on, whenever a royal was born, a cat from the forest would visit the kingdom, and if they befriended a prince or princess, they teach them magic and stay by their side, so the relationship between the humans, the cats, and the dragon remained in perfect balance. Anyway, remember that mother cat who got summoned away at the beginning? At the time, she found herself being teleported to the practice hall of the magic school in the human kingdom, and the one who had summoned her was a student named Anne Rose, who has about as much confidence as a wet paper towel. That said, she did manage to successfully complete his summoning, so her teacher congratulates her and tells Anne to go explain what happened to the cat since it must be very confused right about now. While the other students continue attempting to complete their summoning spell, Anne sits down with the mother cat and explains to her that the summoning spell they were practicing is one that allows a mage to summon a beast that is compatible with them to act as their familiar. But from what her teacher has told her, spells like these can take several hours or days to be successful. Yet Anne's spell worked right away, and she's convinced that there's no way she could be exceptional at anything, so she believes she must have done something wrong somehow. The mother cat is surprised by how much of a train wreck Anne is and realizes that she is in dire need of some proper guidance. She then thinks back to her kids, who were left behind when she was teleported away, but she doesn't think she needs to worry about them too much since she already taught them all the basics of survival, and they were getting close to the age where they'd have to leave the nest anyway, so they won't need her anymore. And since that's the case, she decides to have a crack at raising this human girl since she clearly needs all the help she can get. She tells Anne she's going to be looking after her from now on, but Anne freaks out because the last thing she expected was for the cat to actually start talking back to her. From that day forward, after Anne was done with classes for the day, she would meet up with the cat outside so they could head to the training ground together, where the cat could give Anne some magic lessons, and when they get there, she asks Anne to demonstrate one of her spells. Anne then proceeds to cast an ice needle spell, but it doesn't turn out quite right, so all she ends up creating is a tiny ice nugget. Anne is once again disappointed in herself, because that wasn't what she was trying to do at all. But the cat tells her there's nothing to be ashamed about and offers to demonstrate one of her own spells so Anne can learn how it's done. The cat then uses her tail to cast a lightning spell at the wall, and Anne is impressed by how powerful it is because she has never seen such a strong spell before. But after seeing it a few times, she is actually starting to understand how it works, so she decides to give it a try herself. She points her staff at the wall and mimics the movements the cat had shown her, and sure enough, her staff does produce some lightning, although it's not very strong. The cat recalls that humans usually use a chant when casting spells, so she asks Anne to try saying Elico Elish, and as Anne does so, she actually manages to create a decent lightning spell. The cat instructs her to keep casting the spell over and over so her body can properly adjust to using the magic and consuming magic power. And as an added bonus, the more she drains her magic energy reserves, the stronger her magic will get as well. After a long day of spell casting, Anne is feeling really drained, and the cat congratulates her on a job well done, but before they take a break, she asks Anne to try casting her ice needle spell again. Anne is absolutely exhausted, but she does as she is told, and to her surprise, the ice needle is much more of a needle than it was last time, and it's traveling faster too. However, she's still got a long way to go before it can be considered a genuine attack spell, so the cat asks Anne to get up and try again even though she's already tired. Over the next few days, Anne has been eating a lot more at breakfast since she started training with the cat because she needs all the energy she can get to keep up with her. Her classmates have noticed the change in Anne, and they are glad to see it because she seems a lot more energetic lately. The cat has been joining Anne in class as of late, and though it's technically against the rules for a student to bring their summon with them to class, the cat has received a special exception from the lecturer in exchange for helping him with his research on how beasts take care of their children. Later that day, while the others are having lunch, the cat heads out into the forest to do a little hunting so she doesn't get rusty. There aren't that many mice around the academy for her to target, but there are these carbuncle things, and their magic stones taste absolutely exquisite, so she could eat these all day long. Later in the evening, Anne and the cat meet up for their usual training session, but the cat is surprised to see that Anne ran out of mana much quicker than she usually does. Anne explains that it's because she already had to use a ton of mana today in class, so she was already running pretty low on energy. In that case, the cat tells her they can end things here for today, so Anne heads off to have dinner, and in the meantime, the cat heads to the professor's room to help with his research as promised. They sit and talk for a long while, and she explains that cat Siths usually take care of their children for about 2 years before they mature. The professor is surprised to hear that they look after their young for so long, but on the contrary, the cat tells him that 2 years is actually on the shorter end of the caring period because most species actually stay a lot longer. As a matter of fact, she herself has taken care of quite a few different species over the years. The professor is intrigued to hear more and asks her for specifics, but in all honesty, she never really bothered finding out what species the children she adopted were because it didn't really matter to her. After that, the cat leaves the professor's office, but when she gets back to the dorm, she is in for an unpleasant surprise because the second Anne finds her, she drags the cat out for a bath. The cat has always hated bathing, but since she was given special permission to join the lectures at school, Anne thought it wouldn't be fair to the other students if the cat was dirty, so a bath was in order, though the cat still hates it. Anne and the cat continue to spend a lot of time together. But one day, while in the middle of class, the summoning circle suddenly activates, and it looks like it somehow got connected to the demon realm, so there are a ton of monsters pouring out of it. The teacher tells all the students to brace themselves and get their attack spells ready, and Anne is the first to begin firing thanks to all her training. She does the bulk of the fighting, and with the help of the others, they all manage to take down the monsters, but all of a sudden, the portal activates again, and this time, a greater demon comes out. Everyone is terrified because they know they can't beat something that is this strong. But to their surprise, the cat excitedly says it's so good to see the demon again, and after getting a good look at her, the demon is shocked to realize that she's his mom. It turns out that the cat found the demon at one point when he was young and decided to raise him, just like she did with the dragon. But it has been a long time since she last saw him, so she's glad to see that he's doing fine. The demon had heard that his mom was teleported away by a summoning circle a while back, but he didn't expect to run into her here. And speaking of which, he asks her why she hasn't gone back since his siblings probably miss her a lot, especially the dragon since he's still living in that cave. The cat says they were all skilled enough to take care of themselves when she was teleported away, so she thought it was a good opportunity for them to learn some independence, and besides, she is currently raising this human child now, and she needs her help a lot more at the moment. The cat then suggests that since the summoning gate is connected to the demon world now, they might be able to use the demon world as a training ground for the kids. The demon objects to the idea at first since he actually came here to close the gate, but since his mother insists, he decides to leave it open for her sake. Just then, the demon notices that the cat now has 2 tails, so he asks what happened, and she assumes she must have just eaten a few too many carbuncles and evolved. Although not much has changed for her aside from the fact that she will live a lot longer now. But that's good news for her since it means she will be able to live long enough to look after Anne properly. After that, the demon makes a formal agreement with the headmaster of the school to allow the students to use a section of the demon realm as a training ground. And with the school having its own private dungeon now, it becomes quite popular, attracting dozens of skilled mages over the years. And as for Anne, thanks to the cat's tutelage, she ends up becoming a famous mage known as the Witch of the Ice Storm. There are several stories that describe her as an invincible sorceress who wields both ice and lightning magic in tandem, and wherever she goes, it is said that a cat with 2 tails follows close behind. Anne is meant to be here as a new teacher, so while she's getting settled in, the cat heads over to the training room to meet the headmaster. It has been a while since she last saw him, so she's about to catch up with him, but all of a sudden, the demon comes out of the portal and asks her what she's doing here. The cat explains that she was actually about to come visit him in the demon realm, but the demon tells her it's too dangerous down there. The cat takes offense to this and reminds him that she's not some senior citizen who can't take care of herself when necessary, and she thinks it was very rude of him to interrupt her like that while she was in the middle of greeting the principal. But the demon doesn't want to get yelled at in front of a bunch of people, so he drags her down with him to the demon realm so they can talk in private. Once they make it back to his room, he asks her to please stop doing stuff like that in front of other people, because he has a reputation to uphold as a powerful demon around here, and that reputation will be ruined if they see him getting scolded by his mom. The cat understands that and says she will try her best to keep that in mind, but for some reason, the demon doesn't feel reassured hearing her say that. A little while later, the cat heads back out to see how Anne has been doing with her students, and although the students are all excited to meet her since she's famous, she still freezes up when it's time to introduce herself. Her magic skills may have improved over the years, but her conversational skills still need work, so the cat steps in to smooth everything over and assures the students that they can rest easy because, with Anne as their instructor, they will surely learn a lot, and if there's anything they still can't understand at the end of the lesson, they can all feel free to come to the cat for help, but they should be prepared, because her lessons are going to be far stricter than Anne's. Later on, the dragon is resting in his cave when two married cat couples come to visit him. The couples are there to welcome their newborns, so they ask for the dragon's protection, but the dragon notices that one of the female cats has an injured leg, so he asks her what happened. She explains that some humans who wanted her fur nearly caught her, so she came back to ask if he would allow her to give birth in his cave again. The red dragon is furious that humans would dare harm the cats after the stern warning he gave them, so he immediately flies off to find the people responsible. While searching for them, he hears the sounds of a fight and discovers 3 cats torturing a group of humans. The dragon lands and asks what they are doing, and the cats explain that these are bad people, so they are simply teaching them a lesson. The red dragon angrily yells at them that instead of focusing on hurting the humans, their priority should be making sure the injured cat is safe. The cats try to explain that the humans were planning to send all the forest cats away to a distant kingdom. The dragon is surprised to hear that they aren't connected to the kingdom near the forest. Although the cats want to continue punishing the humans, the dragon orders them to stop. He explains that if they kill the humans, it could spark a war between the nations, and innocent cats living in human towns could end up suffering because of it. Instead, he tells them to take the humans to the nearest town and have them punished there, and the cats excitedly agree. Before leaving, they ask the dragon what he plans to do, and he tells them he's heading back to the cave to help with the childbirth. The dragon quickly returns to the cave, where the waiting cats are relieved to see him. They immediately tell him that the babies are coming. He asks the mother if she's having contractions, and she explains that her stomach started hurting before her water suddenly broke. The dragon also notices that her injured leg has completely healed, so he asks the male cat if he used healing magic on her. The cat admits that he did. The dragon explains that because healing magic was used on her, the kittens became energized and are now trying to come out earlier than they should. The father apologizes and explains that he was worried about his wife and didn't know what else to do. The dragon understands why he did it, but he reminds him that he has to think about the consequences before casting magic in situations like this. Just then, the second mother says her stomach hurts badly as well and asks if she's going into labor too. Both husbands immediately begin panicking, but the dragon calmly tells them to settle down. A short while later, both mothers successfully give birth to healthy little kittens. Their husbands are overjoyed to finally meet their children, while the surrounding cats gather together to admire the newborns. They're all amazed by how unbelievably cute they are, but the dragon simply laughs and reminds everyone that they all looked exactly like these kittens just last year, and before they know it, these little ones will have grown up too. The dragon tells the older cats they'd better keep practicing their hunting and magic so the kittens won't end up teasing them when they get older. One curious little kitten becomes fascinated with the dragon's claw and starts nibbling on it. His father smiles and jokes that maybe the little guy will grow up to become a master hunter someday. 2 months later, the kittens have already grown noticeably bigger, and their mother wants to start preparing food so they can begin weaning. And the other mother agrees since their husbands won't be able to catch enough food on their own. Before leaving, both mothers ask the dragon to watch over the kittens so they won't have to worry about their safety. While they're away, the same little kitten starts chewing on the dragon's claw again. His parents laugh about how much he seems to love it, and they also point out that whenever he stands on his 2 hind legs, he almost looks like a human. They begin joking that maybe he'll end up serving at the royal castle alongside the prince or princess someday, but the dragon doesn't like that idea at all. While it's true that some cats have found kind humans to live with, he believes choosing to live among humans is still like willingly placing yourself in danger. He tells the little kitten that he should grow up and live properly in the forest instead, but the kitten completely ignores him and happily continues chewing on the dragon's claw. 6 months later, the little kittens have grown once again and are now almost as big as fully grown cats. Seeing that they're finally old enough, the dragon decides it's time to teach them how to hunt and use magic. To begin the lesson, he casts a spell and transforms himself into a winged cat. He explains that the spell allows someone to change their form, making themselves either smaller or larger. The kittens are amazed by his new appearance, and before long, they all climb onto him and start playing. The dragon lets them have their fun for a moment before asking if they're finished so he can continue the lesson. He explains that hunting is all about catching prey. They must use their claws and fangs to bring it down before eating it, but prey doesn't want to be eaten, so they should always expect it to fight back. To give them a first-hand demonstration, the dragon suddenly transforms into a massive bear-like monster. The frightened kittens immediately scatter and hide, except for one who hesitates. The dragon tells them that if they ever think they're about to become prey themselves, the first thing they should do is run away. Cornered prey will resist with everything it has, and some creatures can even use magic to fight back, which is why learning magic is so important. The dragon changes back into his winged cat form and explains that many forest cats have spent generations specializing in electric magic, and that's what he'll be teaching them. He notices one little kitten standing beside him and asks if he ran away like he was supposed to, and the kitten proudly answers that he did. Not long after, the current prince of the human kingdom arrives to visit the dragon. He tells the dragon that it's his first time seeing him, and the dragon replies that the prince is also the first human to ever come this deep into the forest. One of the little kittens asks who the dragon is talking to, and his father explains that he's speaking with a human. The kittens are confused, so their father tells them that the man is the prince of a human kingdom and also a friend of their granduncle. The kittens ask if humans are really supposed to be scary because the prince doesn't seem frightening at all, and their father explains that the prince is different because he's a friend. Humans aren't all the same. Some are kind, while others are terrifying. The prince walks over and tells the cats that he feels honored to be welcomed by so many of them. The kittens immediately think he's really cool, and some of them start saying they'd like to visit the human kingdom at least once. Hearing that makes the dragon let out a long, heavy sigh, because more and more kittens are becoming interested in human cities, and he quietly wishes he had refused the prince's visit in the first place. Sometime later, the dragon decides it's finally time to take the kittens outside the cave and let them explore the forest for the first time, and the little ones are understandably nervous as they follow him through the woods, but after walking for a while, the dragon suddenly tells everyone to climb a tree and hide. From their hiding spot, they watch a group of adventurers fighting nearby. The kittens immediately notice how different these humans are from the prince they met earlier, and the dragon points out that the other creatures attacking them are wolves, which the kittens have already seen before. One kitten notices that one of the adventurers appears to have claws, but the dragon explains that humans don't have claws like animals do, and rather they fight using handheld weapons instead, so that human is just using a weapon that happens to look like claws. The dragon then tells them that some humans can also use magic. One of the kittens asks if that's really true, and the dragon confirms it. He explains that some humans possess incredible physical strength, while others are weaker but make up for it by using powerful magic instead. Once the adventurers leave, the kittens climb down from the tree, and the dragon tells them he's glad they were able to witness a battle like that, but he also explains that those adventurers were experts and that people of their level don't usually enter the forest. One of the little kittens can't stop thinking about the adventurer who used magic. He excitedly talks to the others about how amazing it was to see someone channel magic through his staff, and he keeps going on about it all the way back to the cave. Sometime later, the kitten's older siblings are finally ready to leave the nest. Before they depart, the dragon tells them to live however they want and choose the path they believe is right for them. He explains the different ways the forest cats have chosen to live over the years before asking each of them what they want to do with their lives. Two of them say they want to visit a human city, while another wants to claim a territory by the lake. The dragon tells them to be careful wherever they go and reminds them that if anything ever happens, they can always return to him for help. The younger kittens tell their older siblings to stay safe, and promise that if anything ever happens to them, they'll all come and rescue them. Before leaving, the older cats also remind the little kitten to listen to the dragon and follow his instructions. After they leave, the dragon tells the remaining kittens that they'll have to prepare for their own departure next year, so they should continue practicing their hunting. The kittens happily agree. A few days later, another litter of kittens is born, and the dragon is relieved that this year's delivery goes much more smoothly than the last one. He tells the older kittens that they are now the big brothers and sisters, so it's their responsibility to become good role models for the new little ones. He also reminds them that kittens grow up incredibly fast, and they quickly realize exactly what he means. Wanting to impress the newborns, the older kittens decide to show everyone how strong they have become by hunting a bear. After successfully bringing it down, they use magic to carry the bear's body all the way back to the cave, but the dragon and the kitten's parents are both stunned to see them dragging an entire bear home, while the newborn kittens stare at them in amazement. The older kittens expect the dragon to praise them, but instead, he immediately gets angry, because he reminds them that when they encounter a bear, they're supposed to run away, not fight it. Their parents also scold them, warning that if they ever challenge another bear, they could easily lose their lives. Even so, word quickly spreads throughout the forest that a group of young cats managed to kill a bear on their own, and everyone is amazed that they actually pulled it off. Before long, it's finally their turn to leave the cave as well. The dragon asks each of them what they plan to do after leaving. One says she wants to find a husband and raise a family. Rose says she wants to live by the lake near the reed field. Another decides to claim a territory not too far from the cave. The last cat says she wants to travel to the human kingdom, and two others immediately agree that they want to go with her. Then one of the male cats announces that he wants to become a human adventurer, leaving everyone completely speechless. The dragon asks how he expects to become a human when he was born a cat, but the young cat proudly explains that he's spent a long time practicing the transformation spell. To everyone's surprise, he immediately transforms into a human. He tells the dragon that he plans to travel from city to city in his human form and live as an adventurer. But before the dragon has a chance to get angry, the other cats quickly say their goodbyes and head off on their own journeys. Any younger kittens wave goodbye and tell everyone to take care of themselves as they disappear into the distance. This was the end of episode 3. Subscribe to not miss the next part.